All right, folks, back with another episode of Morphy's Games of Chess. The Morphy Harvitz match continues with the 7th match game held September 29th, 1858. I mean, in the book, Morphy's Games of Chess, this is under game number 47. All right, we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Well, Harvitz has the white pieces, and he starts off once again, d4. And Morphy answers, of course, right, folks? Why not? He's been having success with his Dutch defense, f5. Okay, here we go. We got our first footnote. c4 is played by Harvitz, and there's a little note here. And it says, Harvitz clearly had no doubts as to the superiority of this move, c4, over e4, which is nowadays considered the better move of the two. So whenever they wrote these notes, they considered the gambit, folks, the gambit of the pawn better. Now let's just take a few moves from Shredder. Make sure we make no tactical blunders here. Now, very common, these gambit ideas right in the beginning, okay? Against weaker opponents can be good. And I'm going to go out on a limb, but I believe it's correct to state that by the time they wrote these notes, considering e4 better than c4, was at a time when defensive technique wasn't at its best. So yet attacking was developed, especially after Morphy, Blackburn, Marshall, Pillsbury, right? These guys, Alekhine, they really started to, Alekhine came a little later, but they really developed their attacking technique, So it was tough. Gambits were all the rave. They were still being played. So even though you go down a pawn, see, you give up a pawn, but you got more action for your pieces. Look at the diagonals for the white bishops. They're ready to leap into the game, and you got your knights out already. I mean, heck, you bring out, all right, they want to pin this guy. You break the pin, then you get this one out mainly to castle quickly. You want to always castle quickly with a gambit. And look at this, you're going to use that open F file with that rook. The rook on F1 doesn't even have to go to E1, the open E file. It's on the open F file. See? Is it worth it, folks? Against, a strong modern-day master, grandmaster, they're gonna whittle you down to the end game, and that pawn's gonna cost you. But there could be mistakes, there could be slip-ups. It still happens today, So if you have the initiative and you got the better developed pieces and you're a good attacking player, then it may be worth it. Especially if you're playing an opponent under 2,000. Forget about it. This is great. This is, matter of fact, if you guys want to really have fun against lower rated players as you're learning this game, play these gambits. Okay? So anyway, a little side note there. That would be, I forget the name of the gambit, but basically against the Dutch, I forget the name of this. They have a name. But you throw the E pawn and you offer it right away for nothing. See? Attack, defend, and then you offer another pawn and he takes it, and then you develop a piece taken back, and there you go. You utilize the open F file even though you're down a pawn. You get your king bishop out and you castle quick to utilize it for that rook on F1, and there you go, right? It's a game, folks. It's a game. All right. So anyway, we got C4, right? Okay. Now you got Morphy with E6. We've seen it before. The knights come out. The bishop pins the knight on F6 to the queen. Okay, and what does black do? He breaks the pin, develops the piece to E7. We saw it in the other game. The other match game was at game 5. Folks, let me just check again my notes. Yes, it was game 5. We had bishop to E7 on move 4. Now, on the second match game, On the second match game, you had Morphy playing the bishop over here, pinning the knight. Okay? That was in the second match game when he had the black pieces, right? Oh, no, wait. No. That wasn't the second match game. My mistake. It was the third match game. All right, my mistake. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to remember. I can't even remember what I ate last night for dinner. All right, so anyway, here we go. What do we got? They're claiming that this is the stronger move right here. That bishop e7 is the better move of the two. Okay, so Harvitz with e3. Morphy castling. We got the bishop to d3 for white. Okay, and now Morphy b6 with the idea of putting the bishop, the light square bishop for black on b7, developing on that beautiful a8 h1 diagonal, right? We've seen it before. Here comes the knight. Harvitz developing the piece, getting ready to castle. Morphy bringing that bishop to where it wants to go, folks, right? Beautiful diagonal. Now he's attacking the b2 pawn too, right? So anyway, here we got a move that deviates from the other game. The fifth match game at this point continued with castles, okay? And Morphy did this maneuver, and they said right here, freeing his position, and as Morphy points out, showing the disadvantage of white's bishop to g5 on move 4 against the Dutch defense. Because what happens is they traded, you bring the queen up here, she develops to e7 by recapturing, and now, you know, they ended up trading here, and that was that game. That was game number, the fifth match game, okay? What's different? Okay, I'll show you. Instead of Harvitz castling, he takes here first. He takes the knight, Morphy takes back, and then Harvitz castles. All right, a little different now, right? The subtleties of chess. Let's see what happens in this game now. So, we have, that was move 8. And there's the footnote when Harvitz captures the knight on f6, avoiding the variation which he got in the fifth game by castling at once. Okay. So Morphy takes back, bishop takes bishop, Harvitz castled, and now we got Morphy developing the queen to e7, queen to d2 by Harvitz, and now we got d6, right? All right, d6. You could possibly getting ready to develop the knight to d7 without blocking your light square bishop, right? All right, let's see what happens. You got pawn to f4 for Harvitz. The same weak move which he made in the fifth game. They're saying here, pawn to e4 was far better here. All right, now, he can make that move, folks. You got to always count your men. There's e4 square, right? You got your bishop covering it. You got your knight covering it. You got 2, right? What does black have? He only has the bishop on b7 covering e4. Whoops, my mistake there. And he's got the f5 pawn, right? So when he plays the, they could, let's just say they trade, right? Let's just see. I'll tell you the glitches right now. I don't know why. I'm having gremlins in this thing. All right, let's put on the analysis. Let's even make sure, right? You push here, okay? This is what the old masters recommended. He should have pushed e4 here, not f4. All right, they're saying don't even trade, okay? Now, if you're dumb enough to take the free pawn, well, now it's not a free pawn because you get to move your bishop with a discovery. Rook on f8 attacking the white queen, and there you go. You come back, you steal a pawn back, right? So you didn't, white doesn't win a pawn, okay? So that's the idea. Maybe they're going to play e5 next. I don't even know. Let's see. The bishop goes back. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Coming in. Disrupting the white king's castle. You're busting it up. All right? If the knight moves, let's say if the knight moves there. Oh, look at this now, e4. You're attacking e4. Beautiful. The minor pieces. Bishop on f6. Knight coming to c6. Attacking that center. Right? What can he do, folks? Matter of fact, he can't even defend it, can he? Look, the knights can't help out. If this one comes here to try to help, you boot him out. And look at this. All right, it could get crazy. It gets crazy now. Look at this. All right. So, all right, you win the pawn right there. You win it there. See that? So you're winning a pawn that way. And they're saying to advance. Okay, so it gets a little crazy. I thought even this, folks, on your push, if he moves the knight, I mean, you could take here and you bust up the king doesn't have a G pawn to shield himself. Could be trouble with the black pieces. Look at the black rook on the open F file, folks. I'm just saying he could get into the mix, supporting the attack. All right. Anyway, Shredder actually thinks taking is better. You attack the queen. You got a tempo there. You can't. You got the rook. Remember, open F file. You got the rook and the bishop. Can't push. You don't have enough support. You have to move. Attack d4, and then there it goes. I mean, matter of fact, it looks really shaky. The king side, if you could get the knight to f4, folks, what an outpost. Maybe you move the queen over, just for argument's sake. Make a dumb... All right, here you go. He wants to play a3. Just make a little move here, right? You do this stuff, right? You move the knight here, you move it here, you got it up there. If he wants to trade it, you put the bishop in there. I mean, lots can happen by that time. Don't forget, you got the bishop on b7, folks. This attack's going to play itself. I mean, come on. You couldn't ask for more. This looks beautiful. I love it. Every minor piece is involved. You got the open F file for the rook. The queen's over there already, right? All right. A lot could happen. Who knows? If I'm playing against Karpov, I mean, maybe he'd embarrass me. My attack would fizzle out. But, hey, it looks good. It looks good to me. All right. So, anyway, let's just say e4, right? He's got, if they're recommending that move because they got e4s covered. And once they trade, there you go. You challenge one of black's best pieces, that bishop on b7. You rid yourself of what's coming. Okay? We're going to get into it. Remember this idea for the old masters. I don't blame them at all. If this isn't a good move because of this, all right, I don't blame them for recommending e4, because when you focus on this key aspect of this game, that's why they're looking at it now. Gee, he could have pushed e4 now, because that e pawn's going to come into question. You're going to see that maneuver is going to be hard to do. So I could see why they recommend it now. Okay, let's get into the game though. What did Harvard's played this? He plays f4, which is why this e3 pawn now is going to be a problem. That e pawn is going to be a problem. It's going to be hard for him to ever push it up, especially after what happens, okay? So Morphy now, I believe, he does what Shredder wants to do here. Let me just get the move order right here. 11, right? Move 11, and there you go. Look at this. Shredder knows Morphy. Look at it. They must have built Shredder's memory banks and its instincts from Morphy, I tell you. The two think alike. Here it is. C5, striking at the center already, okay? Now, Harvard's advances. And look at what this does, folks. Here you got the knight now. Look, the knight leaps here. Develop your minor pieces, folks. You got the rooks linked up. Now they're going to get into action. These pawns, the D5 and E6 pawn, right? They're ready to be exchanged. Files are going to open. When files open, you want your rooks on the open files, right? Okay, so the knight develops to A3, with ideas maybe leaping to b4, you know, harassing the bishop on d3, maybe. Who knows? Let's see what happens. Okay, so the knight comes to a6. a6. All right. So now, do I got that move order right? Yep. And the pawn takes here, and the queen takes back. And now you have queen, rook to e1. Question mark. Question mark, okay? Now, you can understand Harvard's bringing the rook there opposite black's opposite black's queen on e6, right? I'll tell you, I'm tongue-tied today, folks. But anyway, the rook comes opposite. You know, you're going to try to open a file. You want to push, like I was saying, you want to push that e-pawn up to e4. You want to control the e4 square so you can support that pawn push. Why, folks? Because it's on an open file, a semi-open file for black, right? You put the big guns and you're aiming at them. You're aiming at that weak pawn on e3. It's a backward pawn now, folks. We've talked about it in other games. Look at the bishop on b7 controlling e4, the queen controlling e4, the f5 pawn controlling e4. All right, so you can understand why Harvard brings the rook to e1. He's going to move the knight on e2 and have support to get rid of that weakness, weak pawn, folks, okay? There's no other pawns on the F file or D file. F file, okay? F file or D file that could support this pawn. The pieces are gonna have to babysit him until he can push up and trade with the F pawn, or box F pawn, right? All right. So anyway, I hope it's making sense. I know I'm getting tongue-tied. All right. Anyway, you got now black. Morphy plays bishop to h4. He's harassing that rook, which Harvard's just moved. So he's not going to want to waste time and move the rook again. I mean, he put it there for a reason, right? To push that, get rid of that weakness, as we explained. So he's not going to move the rook. Defeats the purpose, right? So he's got two moves. He's got the knight or he's got the pawn. Now, if he plays the pawn, he weakens the light squares, folks, around the king. So, yeah, Morphy would have to move the bishop back, but that's exactly what he wants. He wants him to weaken the king side, folks. And here you go. All right, he put, let's say if he was to move there. I mean, the point is, look at this diagonal for this guy. He becomes a beast. He becomes a beast. Would you want to trade this guy like this? No, of course not. Of course not. You got a massive bishop, powerful on the light diagonal, the longest light diagonal on the board, and look at it, aiming right at the king side with white light square weakness. Maybe all right, look, undermine the knight on d5. Maybe you can't bring him here now, white just takes, but, you know, maybe you trade him off, maybe even give up a pawn, the hell with it. Give up the pawn over here, maybe. You get this guy so strong on b7, right? You don't want him blocked out. Maybe, you know, maybe you set up the trade, you trade the knight. Oh, look at it. He'll trade the bishop off for it. All right, anyway. Okay. You trade the dark square bishop, right? You do this, you trade this one off, big deal, right? The dark square bishop is looking pretty good too, actually, come to think of it. Look at this guy down here. The bishops are looking nice. But anyway, okay. We're talking about light square diagonal. G3 weakens the light squares around the king. Bishop would retreat. But Harvard doesn't do that. No, he does this, folks. Knight to G3. He preferred the knight. I guess he knew instincts. He wouldn't want to weaken the light squares. So, he throws the knight in, and now we get the queen coming to G6. Threatening, folks. To make a dumb move over here. Just to capture, you win a pawn. You win a pawn right like this, see? All right? And who knows what happens after there. Who knows exactly, but I didn't analyze all of it. I'm just saying, the queen coming to G6. I mean, heck, if the knight moves, look at this, folks. Light square diagonal. Bishop on B7, I'm just saying, right? Okay. So you got numerous things going on. Bring the queen to the king's side. That's where the action is. Black's got to play for the attack. Okay, so anyway, maybe win a pawn by trading the bishop for knight. But anyway, after queen to G6, you got knight to D5. Makes sense. Nice outpost, right? There's no black pawn that can boot him out of there on the E file or on the C file, right? So it's a good outpost for white. Believe it or not. No, another mouse slip. I tell you, the technicalities today. All right. Morphy takes him. He actually takes the knight. Pawn takes back. Okay, now, notice something, folks. Notice something. The E3 pawn is a weakness. It's a backward pawn. It is a weakness because black has the semi-open file. And he can control this square, and he can keep that pawn from coming up and possibly win it. Now look at black's D6 pawn in comparison. It's not a weakness because it's not on an open file. Now after this trade, the C pawn comes to D5, and it plugs it up and the D6 pawn is it's not a weakness. Okay, you see the sense to that? And look at this. Even black, one of Shredder's ideas would be to sack a pawn just to get the knight here, and possibly then you do an artificial outpost like this, where you put the pawn up here, maybe so the B pawn can't harass him. But anyway, all right. And then you come into E4, folks. The knight on C5 is controlling E4. You bring a rook over there, and you're controlling E4. You got an outpost. I'm just saying, folks, you got an outpost on E4 now. And look at that. You even take this guy. Why, folks? Because he controls E4. Makes sense, right? There you go. He's leaping in. Look, do I know what I'm talking about, folks? At least in this position, I do. You know what I'm saying here? You go look at that. Now, let's get back to the game because things are going to kind of go along those lines anyway. That theme, okay? You take there, he plugs the hole up. D6 pawn for black is okay. Still got that weak E3 pawn for white. All right. So after this, holy smokes, he chops off the knight. Why? Because he controls that E4 square. And you could think, well, maybe he'll want to win that pawn on G3. But positionally, folks, you gotta say, this guy Morphy, he knew ahead of time before this stuff was even known. I mean, whether it's instincts or what, it's amazing that when you really start to analyze his games, you start to see the positional chess. I mean, Steinitz was the one, right, who started laying it all out, but he must have studied Morphy, right, and just put this into practice, developed the method to the positional chess. Anyway, I find it fascinating, right? All right, so yes, the pawn on G3 is hanging, but don't forget, after this capture over here, right, after the trade on D5, the C pawn recaptures, and now the knight's hanging on A6, right? The knight's hanging, let's just say, right? Knight's hanging over here. Forgot to mention that, okay? So after they trade, the knight's hanging, but look, Morphy has time to do this. He has time to take, because if he takes here, if he was dumb enough to do it, now you win the exchange, right? It's obvious. It's glaring you in the face, okay? So there you go, and there you have it. Black's winning. He's up the exchange, right? So he doesn't have time to take the knight. He has to recapture on G3, which gives the knight time to move, but not up. Morphy chooses to move the knight back. All right, he chooses C7. Okay, I guess he felt there's no real future. If he comes here, the bishop, I thought maybe you'd go here, and then you'd eventually play A3, and where's the knight got to go, right? Where's he going to go? So it could be, maybe he could get into trouble. I don't know. But Morphy, maybe he saw it deeper. I didn't look at it too deep. I just trusted the man. He went to C7. All right, you got to trust the hero of our of the hour here. Knight to c7. All right, now he's attacking d5, right? But not really, folks, because if he takes here, pin, you got to watch the king. Your king on the light diagonal here. It's an important theme to watch. You got to watch that pin. Okay, and there's two on it now, the queen on d2 and the bishop. That knight is toast. Okay, so anyway, so that d5 is not really hanging. Look at Shredder. What's he suggesting, folks? Might have been the right move to make. Get rid of your weakness. All right, you lose this guy, big deal. Big deal, you lose that guy. You're getting rid of your weakness. You're going to get your rooks. You know, what if you take here? Does that matter? I don't know. What if you just take? Maybe he wants to go forward. He wants to go forward. Okay. Looks like the right way to play it. The engine pretty much puts it even at this point. Yep, there it is. Queen goes back to protect d6. Yeah, what does he do? What does white do? Does he advance or does he take? He doesn't do either at this point. And that was the move. I mean, at this point, it's even now, right? White's looking fine. Now those pawns are starting to move up. The rook is on e1 is starting to get more scope. All right, so anyway, there you go. Again, folks, get rid of your weakness while you can. Okay, he takes, all right. Now he's got the open e-file for the rook, right? Everything's starting to look good. White's doing fine. Let's look at the difference, though. Let's look at the difference of what Horvitz does and how his game goes. Because he doesn't push e4. He doesn't push e4. He plays the king up, I guess, to protect g3. He doesn't want to lose the g3 pawn. You see this? So you got to always ask yourself, just like in the gambit, like we looked at in the beginning, folks, to the Dutch defense, there's that gambit white can play. e4, okay, on move 2. Sometimes you want to get piece action, even if you're down a pawn. It's a better game. It's easier to play. It's better. You can defend better. Even if you're down a pawn, if your pieces have good scope, it's going to be tough for your opponent to make anything of it. Okay? Opposed to trying to hang on to every pawn, but yet you're still hanging on to your weaknesses. And you don't have good piece action, all right? King coming up. Now, you might say, why not defend with the rook? Why not defend with the queen? Well, I think king to f2 is to also get the king out of the way, because now Horvitz wants to utilize the open h-file for his rook. So he got the king out of the way, you see? So that, I think, is the idea. All right, Morphy, look at Shredder. I said it, the two think alike, right? There you go. Queen rook to e8 by Morphy. Why, folks? Why? He's playing on the semi-open file. He's bearing down on the weakness, okay? So, controlling with the queen, too, folks. He can't do it now because, look, you got the queen defending, right? On g6, you got the rook, and there you go. You'd lose a pawn, right? You get nothing for it. Nothing. All right. So there you go. Rook comes over. Now white can't push e4. Main theme of the game. Okay. But here you got, let's see. We're at move 19 already. Wow. Okay. King over. Now you got move 20. Right? There, like I said. All right, Shredder sees it. Rook to h1. Okay, there's the idea of king up. Get out of the way, like I said. Okay. Rook to the open file for Horvitz. And now you got Morphy. Look at this. Look at this guy. Shredder. I can't believe it. I didn't leave the engine on. Look at this. I can't believe it. Here it is. Rook to e7. The two think alike, right? It's procedure, folks. It's following procedure. Look at this. It makes sense. Maybe double the rooks. Rook to e8. You're doubling up on the open file, bearing down on e3. You see the king has to defend. The queen has to defend. The rook, right? The bishop is on the light squares. He can't even defend that e3. He's hoping to cover e4 and they can try to push, get rid of that weakness. But so far he can't do it. All right. So now you got the rook coming up, right? You got the rook coming up by Harvard's. Okay. Queen to f7 by Morphy. Now we got an interesting time in the game. It says anticipating Harvard's g4, which white indeed might still have played. At first sight, the move looks good. Black could not then continue. Queen takes d5 on account of queen to c2. All right, queen to c2. Why, folks? Well, remember the diagonal, light square diagonal. Remember that? You got your king on g8. Goodbye. Game over. The queen is pinned on d5. You lose. Black loses the game. Loses the queen. All right. So, funny enough, though, when you analyze with Shredder, okay, look, it's saying b5, take away the c4 square. Okay, that move right there doesn't renew the threat because your pawn, lucky because of the knight. Folks, look at Morphy, right? He's playing the queen to f7 with this idea, perhaps. Okay, why did the knight go to c7 opposed to b4? Because if this line cropped up, he has b5 to take away c4. You can't take here, folks, the knight. The knight's on c7. Capiche? You understand? That's the whole reasoning why he moved the knight. He didn't move the knight to b4 like Shredder wanted to. See this? All right. So anyway, things are adding up, right? Making some sense. And quite frankly, this line looks good, folks. It looks good for Black. It's still a game. It's a tough fight. He's not really up by much, okay? The evaluation is under a pawn. Black's up under a pawn, okay? I think he's got the easier game. He's gonna maybe double the rooks, right? He can't do it now, or can he? White's last move, let's see. There was this. He takes here. They put the queen. They recommend the queen to c2. And then you push the pawn up. And, all right, did Black really win a pawn on d5? It looks to me like f5 is under the gun, right? White's really piling up on it, so he might win that one. It prefers to play, the engine's saying to play b3. So there you go. Who knows? Look at this. You're playing g5, harassing the rook. It's a game, folks. It could be crazy. I don't even know. It could become really, really crazy. He goes here. You take here. He takes there. I'm doing this fast. Look, one thing is the game is opening up. The game's opening up. He can't take here, can he? Take. He takes. You check. He goes there. Knight comes up. Knight, centralized knight. Could be dangerous. Queen to e3 mate is threatened. Queen back to protect. Didn't look at this, folks. I'm just going over. This was quick. I'm sure White has better moves. Black has better moves. But here you go, right? Could the knight take on g4? I guess. What happens on this? What happens? I'm curious. Oh, the queen's coming in. See, it's like a double-edged position here. Yeah, that's no good. White comes right back. So it's double-edged. You got the white's going for the attack too. Could be crazy. All right, he comes over here. Well, anyway, already fulfills the check. I didn't really look at this, but anyway, folks, it's a game. You got Black up a pawn. You got him up a pawn. The G pawns are double isolated. Black has a pass D pawn, you know. It puts it up, black up slightly, but still under a pawn, under one. All right, look. This I think is the better line. I think this is the better line in what Morphy was getting ready to play into. If Harvard's played G4, he was going to do this, I think. Okay, now they think that after Queen, they think the old masters state that this is the weaker of the two moves. Queen takes, because they just evaluate the queen moves over, and then you're threatening bishop c4, winning the queen. But I mean, again, you got this. So okay, so they just left it at that, and they think black's better move against g4 is g5. Whoops. Again, the technicalities, folks. Is g5. And it says, with a tremendous attack. Now, playing against Schroeder, it doesn't work out this way. All right? He plays the rook up. And there was... it didn't like, when I went over it with Schroeder, it didn't like h6. It was taking. It was actually capturing. It was actually capturing here. And then after this, they would trade. Queen takes back. And I mean, it's just, f5 is under the gun. You got the rook coming to g5, checking the white king. Okay, look, you go here, for instance, right? Now the bishop, look at this diagonal, aiming at h7 after capturing, right? He goes down here. He could come up. Still double-edged. Who knows, right? Who knows? It's a game. You protect you notice h7 is under the gun by the rook and bishop. I mean, okay, he comes back here. You give a check. I don't know. This is all fast. Maybe better moves by both. Okay. Offer the exchange of queens. All right. It's over. They trade now. This kind of busts up the pawn for black. So I don't know. And they're putting white up a bit. I don't know. I went over many lines, but I didn't see this one. Hold on. After this, rook up. It was saying h6. Okay? But even if you let the engine go a little bit now, it seems to like taking on f4. So, like I said, I didn't see it. Oh, look, it decides this is better. Let's see. Let's just see. Now, this I didn't look at. Let's just see. He takes here. He could let the engine go, right? But, okay, we take over there. He trades. We take back with the knight, centralized knight. He's going to capture here and win this pawn, right? He wins a pawn over there. Now, what happens if you go over, folks? Do you see? Rook, check. See that? And there you go. Black gets mated. See? Open files, folks. Lead to disaster. So, he has to step here. Rook going after the d6 pawn. Puts white up. It puts white up. I mean, look at the piece action now. Once you still got that e3 pawn. But, let's see, he comes up here. It's anybody's guess. I don't know. You guys out there, who would you rather have? Bishop looks strong now. If white could post, how's he going to post that knight on a dark square? He'd love to get it to d4 maybe. e5. Oh, trade off this guy. Look, it's pinned. It's pinned. If he takes, he loses that guy. Those are the little tricks you got to watch. All right. So, you take... Got the pass pawn now, marching up. He takes there because your knight's pinned. If you take here, he takes there, right? And it's a rook. And matter of fact, he wins your other rook. Game over, right? Game over. So you can't do it. You can't do it. So he takes it right in front of your face. King's got to get out of the pin, right? Here comes the check. You block. He takes. Renews the pin because the white rook on f1 keeps the knight from recapturing the bishop here. So there you go. Look. All right. So there you go. It's still a fight. Pawns on both sides of the board, though, folks. Trade those rooks off. You got bishop versus knight endgame. Pawns on both sides. Bishop's got nice scope. Open center. Just saying. All right. So, what does it evaluate at that point, too? Right? At this point, yeah, white's up. White's doing better. But it's still a fight. Maybe black can hang in there, get the draw. But again, folks, out of the two, I mean, I don't know. We did it quick. We did it quick, gotta admit. We didn't let the engine go. Didn't see this when I was going over the game with Shredder, H6. Why it comes up with it now, who knows, right? So, all right. At this point, we had Morphy with queen to f7, and the old master said, you know, anticipating this move. But this move doesn't come. All right? Here's what Harvitz plays. He plays the bishop back. Okay? Plays the bishop back. And let's just see here. Yeah, if you say, oh well, I got 2 on it now, right? If you take with the knight, he pins it. He pins the knight, okay? You lose your piece. Now, if he takes with the queen at this point, you take back, and then you'll lose your knight that way, right? Rook can't come up here to protect it, right? All right, you got to watch that threat, folks. That pin, right? You'd say, why not Morphy move in the last, like, few moves, right? You got the last move in the game was bishop to e2. You say to yourself, well, why does Morphy lead the king there? Why not just move king to h8 and eliminate that threat, right? Well, the time, folks. Time is everything, right? Timing is everything. He feels, you know, I would say, I can't read his mind, but I'm thinking like Morphy, I'm saying he doesn't want to waste the tempo. He doesn't want to give Harvitz that one move. He feels he could leave that threat sitting there because it's not a threat if he plays around it. You know, if he doesn't take that D5 pawn and he feels he's going to pile up on the E3 pawn, and that might give him the win, right? So that's the strategy he's going with. He doesn't want to waste time moving the king because then it might give white that extra tempo to reorganize and be able to push his e-pawn up to e4, right? So, at this point, Harvitz bishop e2, and now you got the knight coming to e8, and he's just repositioning this guy. Here comes the queen. D3, supporting that e4, right? Attacking the f5 pawn, you would think, after Morphy moves the knight to f6, right? You think that that pawn hangs, right? It looks like it does. Looks so deceiving, folks. Right? You lose the queen. Forget it. Game over, right? So that f-pawn on f5 looks like it's undefended. Don't fall for those cheapos, folks. All right? Here comes the bishop to f3. Now he's trying to push e4. Remember, folks, the e3 pawn weakness. Well, the bishop's in place to support. But it also renews this. It also renews this because now you jump the knight, figuring to win the queen. Well, the bishop takes back. So you don't win anything, right? You don't win anything, and it turns into, hey, look at that. You can push e4. There it is, folks. There it is. And it's with a tempo. He's got to retreat. And it's a rook and pawn endgame, and forget about it, right? Let me see. Where's the evaluation? Oh, look at this. It puts white up. 2, 4, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6. You're down a pawn, Black. There you go. You lost. Right? You just blew it. All right. So once the bishop comes over here to f3, now the f pawn is hanging. f5 is hanging, folks. So that was move 24, right? So here you go. Look, Morphy, g6 protects f5. There you go. Right now, can he push yet, folks? Can he push this up? Can he push? Let's see. He's got the knight on f6. Black has the rook on e7, and he's got the f pawn. Now, white, right? White has 3 on it, so it looks like it's good. Looks like it's good. All of a sudden, looks deceiving. Here comes the rook pinning him, right? Can he get out of this? Well, he just sacked it for a pawn, folks, right? And black still has a knight. We did it fast. We did it fast, okay? But the basic idea is sometimes you got to watch. It looks like he has enough. He has a bishop, he has the rook, he has the queen, 3, controlling e4. Black only has the knight and the rook and the pawn. It looks like, he could push, right? All right, he takes this way. That gives up the exchange, though, see? Gives up the exchange. So that's no good. And if he takes with this again, we double up on him, see? He can't retreat now. He can't retreat because then you lose the rook. You got to always remember those doubled rooks on the file, see? You got to remember that type of trick. You add more pressure, and the best at this point would be to sack the bishop for another pawn. You don't want to take down here because he's on your queen with check, right? Okay, so you got to take back. All right, trade. All right, trade, whatever, right? Okay, there you go. There it is, folks. Black, white's busted. Black's up a piece. All right, so he can't push yet. Can't push yet. I can't emphasize it enough. Key component of the whole game. The whole game's revolving around this. Remember the old masters, folks? Push e4 and move, I don't know, what was it? Let's see, I'll go back and look. Right? Should have played, move 11. Move 11. The old masters recommended e4. All right. So now, what was the last move? Protect f5, right? There you go. Move 24, protecting f5. Now you got rook to e2 question mark. Rook to e2 question mark. Doesn't really fit in with the scheme of things, right? What's he gonna? He's gonna bring the other rook. What's he gonna bring the other rook over here to back up the pawn? That's too slow, right? He already moved the rook up to h4. I don't really get it. Is he protecting along the rank, the second rank? Is he protecting b2 maybe? All right. Anyway. Okay. They give it a question mark. And here you got king rook right there. King rook right there. Do I have to explain why, folks? We've emphasized it enough, right? Rooks on the semi-open file, aiming at the weakness on e3. Controlling the e4 square so white cannot get rid of the weakness. All right, so now it says here, Jay Lowenthal suggests, I don't know, folks, the old masters like this move. They like this g5 move, like in the other line. Pawn to g5, pawn takes pawn. They give knight with the check. They give king going back. Knight taking the pawn on g3, attacking the rook. Why it moved there, who knows? All right, Shredder wants to go there, but the old masters give rook back to e1, and then they say queen to g7, taking control of that dark square diagonal, aiming at b2, right? And they give, with a strong game, the same variation is possible next move also. Well, I don't know. We look at I played Shredder with this a little bit, and you know, Okay, let's see. I forgot what it wanted to do. It even gave up this pawn. Is it sure it wants to do that? Alright, anyway, here we go. We take the pawn down there, I guess. He takes that one. Might be better moves, right? There might be better moves for both sides. But you know what? When I went over this with Shredder, letting the engine go a little bit, he's going to chop this guy off, right? There you go. He's chopping that guy. He can't let a knight. That's dangerous. Leaving a knight with an outpost that close to the enemy king. Can't do it. You exchange minor pieces. Alright, there you go. What are you going to do now? Alright, you come down. Rook here. You take the G pawn. I think it wants to take the D pawn. If you let it go a little bit, it wants to take the D pawn, not the G pawn. Last time I sat on this, I remember. For whatever reason, it likes to take the D pawn more. Come on, engine. Come on. Don't embarrass me here. Is it even thinking? What's it doing? I'll tell you what, if I go like this and take it, let's see, what is it like now? Now it likes rook. It likes rook there. There you go. It likes taking. It likes taking. Really, you know, it's under, let's see, it's saying, it likes G5. Okay, let's look at it this. Now it changed its mind. It likes this move better. So if you take there, right, he takes here, you take, he pushes. I mean, we're going quick. Don't get me wrong. I mean, is it really, it's saying black's up slightly. I mean, they say, the old masters recommend that he'll have a strong game. I don't know, maybe if the engine runs longer, there is even better moves for both sides, right? But I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe the old masters are right here. I don't know. Didn't really look at it. We'll be here all day, right? We'll be here all day. So let's go to what actually happened in the game, which has some beautiful, beautiful sidelines that I'd rather investigate more than this, okay? To go into this one. So we go back, we go all the way back. The G5 move by the old masters was recommended. Okay. Morphy, right? Sticking with the plan, right? Sticking with the plan. Why open ripple? Why let white get some play, okay? When you got your clear plan here, E3 weakness, okay? Doubling those rooks up. Makes sense to me, right? Now, here you got B3. B3, go figure, I don't know. But anyway, now, the queen, let's see, queen to G7. Maybe he wanted to just put the, you know, B pawn on B3. I don't know, is that going to be a threat? Is to control the light square over here for now? I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, here comes the rook back. Okay? And you got pawn up to support the G5 pawn push. Now, all right, so queen, there you go. There's the reason. The queen comes here to support the pawn going up and maybe to take over that dark square diagonal, the A1, H8 diagonal. That makes sense. Rook goes back, he's down. Now he's pushing H6. Okay? Now, what's funny is, if you look at this scenario, maybe it's worth mentioning at this point, I think at some point, if you let the evaluation go, it likes to throw the knight in there. Now, look, if you do, he's going to chop it off, right? Now, do you take with the pawn and plug the hole like white did on D5 earlier? No. You recapture with a piece. So now look at the doubled rooks. They're bearing down on E3. You see? The simple plan, folks. The simple plan. Now, black might not have enough, though, because the white king could help protect it. The other rook's going to come around, probably go to E1 to protect, right? So, with that one weakness, white might be able to hold, right? But here's the thing. You could create a second weakness. All right? You could create a second weakness by 3 pawns on the queen side, right? Against white's 2. B3 and A2 pawns. 3 against 2 on the queen side. What does that mean? Well, if my math is correct, if you swap them down, you'll have 1 left, right? And that would be a passed pawn, opposed by no other, white pawns. He can march in. That could become a second problem, a second weakness for white. He'll have to handle the weakness on the open E-file, the E3 pawn, babysit him while trying to protect against a passed pawn marching down on the queen side. And let me tell you, without the minor pieces, this becomes tricky. All right? It's just, that's the way the nature of the game is. All right? Like right now, that rook on E4, he's cemented in there. What's the queen's not going to take it. If there was a nice knight on D2, well, then he would push that rook on E4 out of there and then possibly push the E3 pawn, right? But there's no minor pieces to threaten the rook. Black has no worries of losing the exchange. He could keep that rook sitting there, right? He's wedged in there. Beautiful. Okay? So it's just some ideas, right? To try to do it, have the technique might be another thing. I don't know. Maybe you swing the queen. Try to swing the queen over here and start. Look, he already senses it. He knows what I'm going to try to do. There you go. Look, you support with your queen, you support the B pawn, right? Now remember, you also have the rook over here supporting. It's just convenient that we want to push C4, and that rook actually supports it too, right? Now he knows that the B file is going to open if I push here. See this? So there you go, right? He put the rook on the B file. Look at that. Now, would black be dumb enough to take here, right? He would sack this guy because his knight's under the gun too, right? Now, I can't take him because he could slide back and recapture. See how these things play out? Crazy. So, I can't take with the rook because he sacks the queen. I take back, and then there you go. He wins. And, do I even have to put it in the words? I can't even get it out, but you see what's happening, right? So, he'll try to fight with the tactics. Positionally, I don't think he's got it. He can't stop me. I mean, he's got to use tactics to try to prevent me from doing this. So, look at this. Good move by Shredder. See, the moves start making sense now when you know the strategic plan. You see, you're going to push the C pawn up to C4 and unleash the queen on the dark square diagonal. Aiming where, folks? Aiming where? At the weakness on E3. You see how it works? All right, he goes here, right? Wow, and you'd actually push. You'd push there. This is something else. All right, so anyway, you see how the game is played? You see how the game is played? I don't, but no, I'm just kidding. You see how it's played? I mean, now, okay, you're gonna advance the A pawn, okay? And then when he has to take, then, you're going to have the C pawn free to advance, right? If he takes. All right, here we go, look. Let's see, what does he even do at this point? He's just like, he's buying time. Look. Does he take, folks? No, because, all right, we swing the rook or we just advance. That's what I thought was coming. Hit the queen, right? Queen goes back. Folks, we got to pass C pawn. Got to pass C pawn. He's trying to take this guy now. All right, so we protect him with our guys. You see how it is now? Look, do I got to keep playing it? We got the weakness on E3 still. See, the king on F2 is helping to protect it. We got 2 on it. He's 2 defending. But he's also having to deal with this problem now of these pawns coming down. D5 is not protected, by the way. Okay, here he goes. He protects. Now we attack him. Right? Now the pawns are marching, folks. They're marching. We recapture our A pawn. All right. Goes there. All right. Now we get the D pawn. We're going to capture here and then try to capture on A2, right? Weak A pawns. Isolated A pawns. Remember we mentioned in the last game, they can't protect one another. Queen's got to babysit. C2. He drops this guy. All right, he forces. Does he force an exchange of queens? Remember the king on G8? No, because we have our rook protecting. If he was to do this, well, now he's got the. That's a good move by white, because now his pawns are, you know, his B3 and A4. They're chained up, right? They're protecting. A4 isn't a weakness anymore. But black has this guy, and he won the D pawn, so he's got a protected past A pawn. All right, but you don't trade. You don't give your opponent that. He goes here. You're gonna push D5 maybe. Push D5, but why protect it with the rook? But anyway, you see how the game goes. You see how it works, folks? What happens if you do this? Oh, he takes it anyway. I'm blind. You can't take, right, folks? All right. My mistake. It's getting a little long. I'm trying to go through it quick so we could get back to the game, but you got to admit, this is fascinating, right? This is fascinating stuff. I love it. I love it. I can't turn away from this. I'm wanting to see, you know, you got to have the technique to slowly, the threats. You got multiple threats that you're using against white. White is in the worst position here. You can see the engine. Black's only up 1.22, right? A little over a pawn advantage. But look at the piece action. Look at the plan. What's white's plan? White's plan is to survive. Black's plan is to push the pawn, to keep that E3 weakness in check, pile up on him when need be. You see how it works, folks? Here comes the king getting out of the pin, right? So there's no pin on the black queen anymore. He's going to protect P6. White's trying to survive, you see? And even though the evaluation isn't that big, positionally, folks, the computer material, he could count it and see that it's close, right? But the fear and the simple plan, there's no way the computer could evaluate that. Look, piling up on E3 again, right? Okay. Don't know why rook here. Why rook there? Let me just make a dumb move. Oh, he's going to undermine. He's going to undermine the C3. He's going to undermine the C3 pawn. Is that what he's going to try to do? Why not bring the pawn up and then bring the rook to E6? He wants to protect C3 like this because he's going to try to undermine the B4 pawn, which supports the C3 pawn. But let me see, what if, I'm curious, what if you do this, right? It's going to undermine. You double the rooks, like I said. All right, he's got to pay attention to that, because we could rip it open and it could lead to mate. All right, we take, look at this. Oh, folks, there it is. There's the move. There it is, all your hard work. Look, doubled rooks, right? There goes the pawn. Very common theme. The backward weakness on E3 is eventually piled up on, and then you add the final death blow with one of your pawns. Because if he takes, remember, rooks are doubled. Boom, he loses. He can't take. Goodbye. It's all over now. Forget about it. It's all over. Right? Do we have to see more, folks? It's all over. All right, he's going to threaten mate. He's got nothing. He checks. He's going to have to take to prevent the mate. And there you go. You eat him up. You eat him. As a matter of fact, you take it this pawn. The C3 pawn. All right, there you go. Right, he can't take. And just to conclude on this very interesting position, which I didn't even go into deep with the shredder. I just got sucked into it, I gotta admit. All right, he takes there. Now he's going. So now he's got those two pawns. We take here. He takes here. Wow, it's gonna be two rooks against against the queen. But, folks, we have the passed C pawn and the passed D pawn. So what's he going to try to do? Is he going to try to check me to death? Let's see. What's he going to do? He's got to go back. He's got to go back. I got to continue. Folks, I'm sorry. I got to continue. Now it's evaluating it as even, right? So I don't know. What a game, huh? What a game. Now, I got to continue this. Why not get out of the way and start pushing those pawns? Here he comes, right? Now, I'm going to push D3. I'm going to push C2. I could take his B pawn, right? Queen to C4 makes sense. All right, he comes down. Now, why not just, if I trade, who wins this, right? Who wins this? He's got those other passed pawns too, but mine are closer, right? Oh, man. See, he's got his passed pawns too, though. This is going to turn into a draw. Are you serious? Yeah, he's going to come to D2. Then I got to protect it. Now, he can't take because I go in, right? We see that. But he's got the same scenario over there. He goes here. I come up. And I can't, he's going to do the same thing there. I can't do anything. I got to stay there and babysit. He's got to babysit. And if I go to support my own pawns, it's going to be too slow. Look at this. I think I lose. Yeah, I lose this one. I can't even get here and then promote. He checks me. He promotes on B8. All right, so who knows then? Maybe there was more to this. Maybe there was more to it. He goes back. Maybe I get my king closer right now to be able to eat him up. Right? Maybe I use the king to support the pawns. Now I can't go there because you see what happens, right? He wins my queen for a rook. All right, we don't want to do that. So he comes in. Can I go up? I mean, go after B4. Again, I can't take because king can't catch it, right, folks? The king can't catch it. And if I make a mistake and step to the C file, well, now he could stop it, right? The king could stop one. Right? King could come up here and stop that guy, and then they get the C pawn. And if I go to queen, obviously, right? Like, I can't queen. I can't queen because he's covering C1 with his rook. So you go this way, right? Now, even if he takes and all right, let's see. He's saying to go there. I'm going to promote one, right? All right, he gets this one. I get my queen. He's got those two. It's funny how he ended up with these two passed pawns. But it looks like Black's got him, right? Black's got it in this, the way it turned out here, right? Better moves on both sides throughout all this. I apologize for diverting from Morphy's game, but it's just too good, right? And it's very instructive, okay? So you're up here, you know. You're going to win one of these, right? No, I guess not. Look at that. All right, let's see. You're going to undermine him. He can't take, let's see, if he takes there, you win the rook, right? So he's going to move, he wants to move the king up, you take, and you win this guy. The rook's a threat now, right? Rook is threatened, I should say. Yeah, you check, he moves, you win this one. There you go. You're whittling him down, right? You're whittling him down. Check. He goes there. All right. Now it should be good. All right. There you go. You win this guy. What if he takes here, folks? Do you see the move for black? There you go. Boom. Right? And you win the rook. All right. So, just one of many ways it could go. I just wanted to emphasize, I've seen a lot of publications which talk about creating two weaknesses. Okay? You're playing against your opponent's two weaknesses. In this scenario, right here, going all the way back, is you have a beautiful outpost. The knight leaps in. The bishop trades. Rook takes. Now you got the beautiful e4 outpost and pressure on the e3 weak pawn. Plus 3 against 2 on the queen side where you could make a potential pass pawn. White is his defense is overwhelmed. He can't, if you carry out your plan now, you have those two plans, if played correctly with good technique, White can't hold, okay? Even though the evaluation, look at it, it's under a pawn. It's just over a half a pawn, really. So it just goes to show you how important strategic chess is, folks. Strategic chess. It's the things you can't really add up. The computer, it plays, it just calculates and it understands the material value, but it can't sense danger. It can't sense how good of a position this is for black opposed to white. It can't evaluate that. Just something to consider. All right. So let me take a break because this one's going long. I'm going to have to go get something to eat before I, pass out. All right. We'll continue. You won't even realize it. I'll edit it nice and it'll be smooth sailing from here. All right. I'll see you shortly. All right, folks. So I'm back. Let's rewind it a little more back to the Morphy Harvard's game. Okay. So what I did was the last move was Harvard's B3 on move 26. And we looked at throwing the knight in, and then after the trade here, we went into the whole idea, right? The two weaknesses. All right, but anyway, let's see what Morphy does. He played, I believe I mentioned it earlier, queen to G7 to support the H6 pawn push and also taking control of that nice dark diagonal from A1 to H8. Okay, so after that, Harvard brings the rook back, and there goes the pawn to H6 to support G5. King goes down, and now we got the pawn push. There you go, right? They trade, and now you have bishop. Okay, bishop to H5, attacking the rook. All right, so the rook's attacked on E8, folks, right? So what do? Do you move it? No, I move it. There you go. Look at this. Knight to E4. Now, if you take it, Harvard didn't bite. But you see the long diagonal, folks. This is why I brought it up. Look at this. Queen check. And here's what they say. They're old masters. They just write after the bishop takes, black mates in 6 with queen to A1 check. All right, let's see it. Let's put the engine on. Forced mate in 6, folks. This is move 1. Here you go. Block, right? Move 2. Block. Move 3. You have nothing else, right? If he comes here, you check with the rook. So he's just buying every move, right? Move 4. prolonging it as long as you can. 5, block with the rook. 6, right? There you go. Beautiful stuff. Instant replay. Let's just do it. You ready? Let's do this. Here we go. Rook takes on E8. Queen check. Block. Block. Oh, over here. That's right. Getting ahead of myself. There you go. King forced up to the H file. Nowhere to go. Check. Block. There you go. It's all over. Beautiful stuff, right, folks? All right. So Horvitz knows not to take the rook. He doesn't bite. Gotta watch every little move here. Here you go. Knight, by the way, to E4. An outpost, folks. Look at that knight. He's in. He's cemented in on E4. No white pawns could boot him out of there. Beautiful. Backed up by the rooks. All right, but anyway, after knight to E4, we got rook. Okay, rook goes back to stop the queen check on A1, right? All right, here we go. Now, all right, now the rook's threatened, so he moves. Oh, look at this. What are they doing? Look at this. Look at this move. Morphy misses this. He could have came down here, right? Could have came down, threatening a check on F2. For instance, you go here, right? And it's almost the same, right? Who needs to take the queen and rook? You're just going for the king. That's all that matters, right, folks? Look at this. Same pattern, folks. Knight, rook, and queen. All right. So Morphy misses this. This is another interesting position. I just wanted to show you how to stop, right? How to stop queen F2. Now, you can't go here, folks, because you know what happens. Now it just turns into everything we've seen. Actually, let's see. He goes up. Queen comes down, threatening the pinned bishop, right? You take. Bishop is still pinned. Now, we don't want to take here because then once he moves, the H1 rook attacks our queen. Okay, better is to move. After he moves to G3, better to move the rook, as Shredder says. Now we're going to take and give a check. King moves, and then we're going to take the rook on H1. All right, so he goes to protect the rook on H1. Takes, he goes there. We take it anyway. Do we trade down? Why not, right? Trade all the way down. Oh, my God. Look at this. We're going to trade all the way down, all right? And we're going to be up 2 pieces. All right, so there you go, right? Nice tactics here. This is what happens when you get the positional edge, you see? Look at the knight on E4 shining, right? So anyway, okay. So he can't bring the rook up. If he blocks with the queen, right? If he takes with the rook, look at this. You take, all right, wait. He said, Shredder says to move this. Maybe that's better, right? He goes here. You see that guy, he loses this. And then you go, you got, wait, let's see. You're up 2 pawns, I believe, right? 6-4. Move your rook up, double them rooks. You're coming down, folks. You're coming down. You see it, right? All right, he blocks you up. He blocks you with a check. All right. So it's a game. You're up, though, big. You're up big league. You're up 2. Look at your knight. Your knight's shining over there on G3. You got your rooks doubled. Okay. Anyway, even then, let me see. If you don't move your rook, I think you might come out better. See, you're forking both the white rooks with your knight. So he wins the exchange. You win the exchange back with check. Okay. You're attacking D5. You're attacking D5. Last time, I think the engine moved the bishop to C6. But he goes to G6, attacking the F pawn this time. You take here, he takes there, you take here, attacking the bishop, and wherever he wants to go. Let's see. Let's just leave it at this. So here we go. Look, we're up 3 pawns. We're up 3 pawns, and we got to pass. Look at this D pawn, folks. He's coming up. He's going to support that knight on the dark square, which cannot be dislodged unless white gives up the exchange, right? Powerful knight, outshining the bishop, especially with these pawns. Pass pawn on D4, forget it. Easy win for black. All right. So there you go, right? Where did this all crop? All right, queen to E2 doesn't work. He tried rook to F1. The whole idea is to stop the queen check. If he tries to go here and stop it, I mean we got the G3, same idea, I guess, right? All right, he brings this up. We attack the guy. He gets off. We could take G3. He attacks my queen. Give the check. He can't block because we take, right, folks? We win the exchange, right? He can't block like this. I mean, forget it. We win the queen. So he's got to come out of there. You set up a discovery. Nice. You set up the discovery. If he throws the rook in there to block, well then, let's see. Look at the tactics, folks. Look at the Russians again. They're trying to meddle. Let me turn this off. Take their transmission. If he look, the rook is pinned, right? So we're gonna win the exchange. But you think, oh, we're throwing it into the wind. But look, you take here. If he takes, you win the look. You got it anyway. You win the exchange when all is said and done, right? Pretty sneaky stuff. So he can't really block that. He decides to move back. The bishop is now, let's see, is he pinned? He can't check you because you just take it. You could just take it with, all right, with this one. Or you could go back and take, right? So it's pinned. The bishop's pinned. He can't move it, else he'll lose the rook. Look at this. He takes, this is the best he can do. Oh, look at this. Look at this guy. Sneaky devil. Look at this. He gets the rook down there. But look, luckily, the way it plays out, black ends up, I'll tell you, it could get crazy. But look, folks, do we need to go any further? Black comes out on top of that one. You know, you're combining, you're building your positional edge, and you come out with the tactics at the right moment. And it all works out, you know. That proves that you have the better position. You'll be amazed when you're positionally outplaying your opponent is when all of a sudden you'll see all the tactics work, no matter how crazy it gets, right? Just seems to go hand in hand. All right, so anyway, where did this all come from again? You got this. Okay. He attacks you, jump the knight, threatening the mate in 6 if he bites, right? Bishop takes, and it's mate in 6 for black. All right, he brings the rook back to stop the queen check. And Morphy misses queen to B2. That's what that was all about. Okay, he missed it. That would have been a good move. But, okay. He decides, let's see, just on this too, there might be another move. Queen back. What about queen back? We didn't look at that one. Does it matter with queen back? You take here, attacking the queen. Not really, right? King takes. You take with check. Look at this. And then you get to move your rook. How nice, right? Very convenient. Black wins in that one too. All right, so let's see. Rook down. Morphy misses queen to B2, and what does he do? I'll move 31. All right, we have Morphy moving the rook You know, he's thinking more defensively instead of being aggressive. You know, he had it, folks. But okay. Can't blame the guy. He's under the pressure. Who knows? A lot of people watching the game. Maybe it was televised, right? Did they have TV back then, folks? In 1858? Of course not. All right, so anyway, maybe there's a lot of, the newspapers were big. Maybe there's a lot of newspaper reporters watching it, you know, getting ready to write it up for the next morning's newspaper. All right, so anyway, they have, after rook to f8, okay, he got, oh, there you go, Shredder knows it. He brings the bishop back. He'd love to chop off that knight, you know. But Morphy takes the G pawn, attacking the rook. Rook comes up, attacks the knight. The queen comes in to defend the knight. And now that sets up a little threat, if you don't see it. Pawn fork time, folks. Pawn fork. Let's see. Let's just do a dumb move over here. See? Pretty obvious. See? You win a piece. There you go. All right. Oh, look at that. You set up a discovery. Look at this. Rook to G7. Getting ready to move that knight with a check. There it is. Boom. All right. So it gets ugly. It gets ugly. You got to move your queen. And there you go. Right? This looks very dangerous. Open files for no protection for either king, actually, but it's the black pieces. And look at the knight, folks. Once again, the theme, right? Look at that outpost, the way it ended up. Supported by the f5 pawn, right? Knight cemented in, as good as a rook, maybe even better. All right. So that's the threat. That's the threat. So you can understand now. You got rook. Let's see. One of those pieces has to move. No a3 was played. Give Harvitz a little credit. All right. Shredder likes this. Well, Harvitz was a little more aggressive. Coming into enemy territory. Rook to h6. All right. Here comes the pawn push anyway. To chase that. Push that piece back. The battle of minor pieces. Look at this knight. Right up in the enemy territory. Putting pressure on the white king, right? Look at the bishop running back, right? Running back home. That's where you got to try to beat your opponent. The battle of the minor pieces, right? Who's winning that one so far? Okay. So now after bishop back, Morphy comes up, attacks that rook. Get out of here. All right, he pulls it back. He pulls it back to h4. And here comes, not only can Harvitz move his king up and slide the rook to the h file. Look at this. Here goes Morphy challenging the rook. All right, the rook's trades, right? All right, he takes back. Bishop here. Now they got the light square battery. The knight on g3 and the queen protect f5 for now, blocking that battery of the white queen and white bishop. But can Harvitz make something of it? So who knows? Let's see what happens. Morphy with rook to h7, taking the open h file, threatening rook down. Do you see the threat, folks? Let's make a dumb move again with this a3 pawn. Well, I was looking at this one. I was looking at this first, king up, and then checking. Right? King moves only square. Take. Queen comes down. And look at this. If he goes here, you got the knight fork, folks. Good night. Good night. Look at this. Take with check. All right. And there it is. I mean, Black's winning so easily. He could even sack it, but why do that, right? At this point, what if the king went up here? What if he went here? You just take. All right, and now he goes back down. Because he doesn't want to go here. We know what happens. I'm just looking. All right, you push here. And it's going to be curtains. Let me just make another dumb move. What does he do? He checks from here. And he takes the diagonal. Goes back down. And look at this. Look at, he's coming right in, folks. So the pawn's going to promote there. All right. The pawn's going to promote. Nothing he can do, right? So that's what I was seeing. Let's see how much simpler this move is. Knight to e4. Now it's just queen. Is it queen down to h2 check is being threatened, right? Oh no, right here. I was thinking here. But okay. Attacking the rook on e1. Threatening rook take. Queen takes rook mate. And look at that. Look at the knight takes away. He can only defend. Let's see if he goes here. He just made on f2. So he's really the white queen's overloaded. She can't protect everything, right? Now there's no escape square. Queen to e2 cuts off the white king's escape. See that? Beautiful stuff, folks. Beautiful stuff. So here's better. He tries to run to e2 while he can. I guess this transposes into what we looked at. Look at this. All right, queen down. He goes there. It's all over, right? The nonsense is if he comes up. Matter of fact, wait, if he checks, he goes down. Okay. Just checking. Goes there, he goes up. March the pawn in. Hey, why not advance? You give the check. He goes down, you mate over here, right? He goes up. Oh, there it is. The same pattern. Right? Alright. So anyway, black takes control. Alright, so anyway, rook over, right? Rook to h7 just to see what's going on. That's all I'm saying, folks. Alright, he's going to try to guard by moving the queen to d2. Now if the knight comes here, he chops him off, right? He chops him off. If you check like this and the king comes up, there's no, look at this. There's no fork, right? Because he chops him off. So the queen going back, even in this, I guess you'd lose your rook though, right? Let's say the bishop doesn't do anything. Well, he'd have to go here anyway. You take here, and he takes your rook with check. You'd have to move, and then he gets that guy. So it's still a fight, although I don't think it's going to be long because, look at this. The queen's still in a good position to eat up some pawns. You promote one of those black pawns on the G pawn, perhaps. But anyway, you know, the whole idea of queen to D2 is allow if the knight comes up, right, like Schroeder is suggesting, the bishop could chop it off now. But even now, look at this, folks. Look at the attack. I think I stumbled into this with Schroeder. You come down, you check here, you take, pawn up, taking the f2 square away, queen h1 check, and you're going to win the g pawn. What could white do? What could white do right now? The queen, unfortunately, can't come, you know, can't come to f3. Even this guy covers f3, so there's no hope. There's no hope. That g pawn's it's gonna fall. Look, if you go here, oh, it's a check. Okay, my fault. Look at that, the long diagonal, right? Okay, here it is. Look, check. He goes down. Look at this. Sack it anyway. Get the queens off the board. Sack the F pawn here. Give the pawn back. Folks, what do we have? Remember, 3 against 2 on the queen side. Even though the white king is better positioned, he's going to come up and be in the center, right? Before the black king can. Makes no difference. Once black creates a pass pawn, uh-oh. You can't go here, right, folks? Because he passed, he's gonna be out of the square. Look at this. Can't catch him, folks. So he's got to go back, right? Look at this. He's got to go back. Now your king could come into the game. Now your king is gonna take the center of the board. Why not just go after the D5 pawn? Why go around, right? Why even do that? Well, here you go. What are you worried about? Whatever he does, if he moves this up, big deal. You move yours up, all right. You trade them off, and there you go. What's he gonna do to you? One of those is going in. Maybe both. Maybe both. But anyway, you got that easy. You see that? So even after this, when the pieces, look, when it's just right here, queen back, you could throw the knight up if he takes, big deal. Pawn takes, opening that F file, and there you go. You got the attack, folks. What's the white queen? Look at her position. She's in no position to attack. He tries to take the open file. All right, big deal. And like we said, we looked at it, right? Take him off when you got the win, the automatic win here. All right, he gets the check. Whoop-de-doo. He comes in trying, maybe he's going for a stalemate, perpetual check, right? There you go. Now going here only gives you the opportunity to give a check and trade him off. What if he goes here? Look at this. Look at this, folks. You throw the queen. Now forget about it. What's he going to do now with the 2 pawns? Right? You got 2 connected pass pawns. Forget about it. You're going to just go in and just eat him up. Eat him up. He can't do anything. All right, so you win that end game. So there you go. Queen after rook to h7, queen to d2, knight in to e4, and Morphy's got it. Morphy's got the game, right? But he doesn't do it. He doesn't. The star of the show, unfortunately, missed that one. Okay, he can't be perfect every time. So what does he do? He brings the queen back here. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm reading it wrong. Descriptive notation, forgive me. He tries to pin the white bishop, okay? By his 38th move, black threatened knight to e4. Now he threatens rook to h1 check, followed by knight to e4, right? We do something dumb. Here's what he's threatening. Rook down. There goes the knight fork, right? Now if he takes, well, now we get the queen with check, see? Morphy pinned the bishop on c2, right? Why not? Look, there you go. Who's winning this one, right? So anyway, that's the idea. Pin the bishop now. Okay. So we got the rook protecting the queen, so now the bishop's free to move again. All right, but now here we go. Here comes Morphy with the check. King up. And look at this. He gives a check. He gives a check on f1. A mistake which throws away victory. Of course, if rook takes rook, the knight fork of king and queen still wins, right? What's he going to do? He's going to lose this guy. All right. He's going to win over there. Do we want to take the a2 pawn? It still wins. It'll be a bit of a fight, but It's still a win. Look at black up over 3 pawns. Plus, it says minus 3.32, right? Right down here to the right, evaluation. So, I guess he goes for this. He takes this one. Here you go, look. Trade that one off. Yeah, he's got a block there. Alright, we got to pass B, A and B pawn. Okay? So, board's opening up. That queen's going to be really hard to handle with all the diagonals and open files. Okay. So, let's see, I went back a little too far, forgive me. So it's setting up now, queen to B2. He defends the queen with the rook. Here comes Morphy with the check. King up, right? And we explained this wins. After the check, rook takes rook, still wins for white. Pretty smart, you know. You do it this way, you take with check, and then you lose the bishop too. You lose the bishop too. Oh wait, he's not even going for the bishop. Look at this. Look at this guy, huh? What's he got in store? It's the only square. Now you take it. Oh boy. Now you can take here. Wow. What a dance, huh? They're dancing, folks. Look at this. You win the pawn over there. All right, but anyway, really, do we have to go further? That was pretty stuff, the way the queen was dancing around there. But isn't that something? On the check, the king moving over. You want to take your queen now, so you're giving up rook and knight for queen. Not, you know, not as clear now. I mean, you're still fighting. White's down, but he's still fighting, right? He's still putting up a fight compared to the other scenario, right? Queen versus rook, and the extra pawns for black too. So anyway, on this, the check, okay? Now it's saying if rook takes rook, we just looked at it. But by king takes knight, white escapes. See next note, okay? Black had a forced win, though. Black had a forced win by move 41, right? Rook takes rook. Queen takes rook. And knight in with check. Remember, bishop on c2 is pinned. All right? So, how does he win? Look at this, folks. Look at some of this stuff where they give king to g1. They give they give knight. Let me make sure. Knight, yep. Knight to c3, attacking the queen. And he's going for a perpetual check down there somehow, right? If we take this guy, he comes in. Our queen's on the light squares. He can't really help out. He might be able to get a perpetual now like this. Yeah, evaluation 0.00. So he gets a perpetual. You can check him to death over here. All right, so you got to be careful. You can't just quickly grab, right? You're not going to grab that knight yet. You take over here. He wins that one. You get out of the potential white queen check on h4. Is that what this is? We control the dark square diagonal with our queen, right, folks? If you noticed, he takes here. This isn't shaping up so great. There's got to be better than that, right, folks? Let's go back. That's what they recommended. They say rook to G1, okay, rook to G1, and they say knight to C3. Oh, and the old masters give queen here to protect the bishop. Not only that, you're threatening to take this, right? You got a light square battery going again. But now, did you notice? Back rank threat. Queen down would be mate, right? He's got to stop that. He moves the king so he can get to E2 on the check. Well, this just is admitting defeat. Right? You could just do this, swap them down. And wait, king up. All right, we're going to get in. Where's he going? We're going to could take the D pawn. All right, take this one. I like taking this one because one, it's the center pawn, right? And two, how does the white king's going to take on G3. All right, I was going to say, look, the pawn takes this square, the knight takes this square. How's he going to get up to this guy? But he'll take there and come this way, I guess. But either way, right? So what? We take here. Look, we take there, right? We take everything. We got it, folks. Come on, what am I talking about? All right, so, I mean, if this is the best you got, blocking with the bishop, it's all over, right? What else are you going to do? He goes there. He likes to take with the knight, set up the knight fork. Why play around, folks? Why not just get it over with, right? We got another round coming up, right? Okay, so anyway, there you go. But we got to watch. See, Shredder finds those sneaky moves that don't seem like much. Queen coming to H4 with a check in the perpetual there. So you got to watch. You get out of it. You get out of it. He takes here, right? Okay, grab the center pawn. Nice. He takes this one. I think we looked at this stuff. It's kind of transposed, right? Transposed. The queen to E1 is a much better move. Let's see if we could go a little further here. Bring the knight up, the pawn up. What if you attack that guy? I don't know, folks. It's saying black is better by quite a bit. Let's see why. Let's see why. It's got my curiosity, right? But I'm just doing it quick. Some of you endgame experts out there, masters, grandmasters, might see mistakes. I'm moving this quick. The engine, I noticed the engine sometimes, you know, it doesn't see the best endgame moves here. So, I don't know. But looks like it gives black the edge. But we had the game in the other lines, right? It was no contest. So, knight here, right? King goes down. Maybe this is a better move than knight. It did say knight, right? It said knight to C3, not queen. Let me make sure I got that right. Queen down, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's saying knight there. Shredder likes this. Attack in E3, folks. You see that one? Ready to take with check. Alright, he tries to block. Tries to block. Oh, look at this now. Wait a minute. And if the bishop takes here, well, now we get the check, right? We get with check. He goes there. What if he goes here? We go down. Check. I'm gonna push G3. Take those squares away. He's got to come down. What are we threatening, folks? Let's see. What are we threatening? Check. Gonna force the trade. Is that? Oh, you're gonna win the G pawn again. Sorting the other lines. Look at this. All right, so we're eating them up. There we go. Right, we got it easy, easy. Oh, look at that. The white bishop helpless. He can't do anything. The G pawn's gonna queen on the dark square. How about that? All right, but all right. So he blocks. He doesn't play A3. That's for sure. He blocks with this. Look at this. If he takes, he could take the D pawn. If he takes, you got mate on the back rank, folks. Right? Back rank. That's what G3 is all about. Okay. So after this guy, you win the D pawn. Well, let's see. He likes to check first, actually. He likes to check first. He goes in the corner. All right. Obviously, he can't go here because you got mate. So this is just to drive him all the way over there. See that? If we enter an endgame, folks, he's all the way over there. He's got to run around the G3 pawn, right? Which controls F2 and H2. He's got to go all the way to E2 to get out. And look at this, threatening the knight fork on F2. He's got the queen check. We go there. He blocks. We go in. Look at this, folks. Look at I can't make it up. How the heck? How does this game is crazy. Look at this. Wait a minute. You come here, you block the check. He trades. You figure, oh, look at now you busted the pawn structure, but you're gonna march that guy right in. You're threatening to knight to F2 check, right? And you take off the bishop, so he has no one else to help out. And look at this. How's he stop these two guys? Right? He tries to stop him. This guy marches in. What's he going to do? Right? He can't stop it. All right? So, that's the threat. Right? If he leaves the bishop there. So, he tries to put his man in the battlefield to fight on. Right? And look at this. You come in with the check. Again, he can't come here because of the G3 pawn. He goes there. Look. The knight covers the square. He can't take. He loses, right? The knight supports. All right, so what do? Right? Well, you got to get the king over, I guess, right? Look at this. He can't do it, folks. If he brings the king to stop it, your queen would check, right? And you're in. And then if he tries to stop it with him, big deal. You bring him in anyway. He's got to give up the bishop. Holy smokes. You got to admit, this is poetry in motion, right? Oh my God, I didn't see this line. That is beautiful, I'll tell you. When it just all adds up, it works out beautifully. Look at this, white's one step. Remember the queen check, folks? The queen check on E3, sending the king to H1. You see how it cripples you? In an endgame, look, the king's too far to stop it. You can't do it. He's one step away. You get it? I mean, if he was able to be on, if he was on E2 now, he could bring the bishop there with the king on E2 and the bishop. They cover it, right? Oh man. All right. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm nuts about this game. I don't know. But anyway, okay. So Shredder finds the old master said knight to C3, but how about this queen to C3 move? Better move. Well, if he tries to protect the pawn like that. All right, bring the king up. Get ready, because we're going to trade him off, and then our king will be in the center, I guess, right? Let's see what's going on. He's going after D5. He's going to win the D5 pawn now. If he moves this guy off, you lose the E3 pawn, right? Nothing he can do. I know he likes this square now. We win D5. Put the check in. Put the check in. Knight takes. Look at this. If he goes here, right, you give the check, comes up, give the check. If he takes your knight, it's checkmate. Nice pattern to know. We've seen it before many times in Morphy's games, right? All right, so he comes up, you check, so he can't take the knight. You got to love it, right, folks? You got to love this. Oh, my God. Look at this. Look at this, mate. That's another pattern. I don't know if we saw that one yet. That's pretty nice. All right, so again, right, what can white do? He's busted. All the way back. Queen and knight, folks. They coordinate beautifully. Here it is. Queen to c3. A little better updated line than the knight to c3. Okay? We'll leave it at that. He had to win. Morphy had it. He had to win. But what happens here? Let's do it again. He can rook down, check. Then he doesn't take. He checks here. And he doesn't see this. And remember I said in the previous note, it says, a mistake which throws away a victory. Okay? King takes knight, white escapes. See next note. Well, here we go. We got the next note. Okay? King takes knight. Here comes Morphy with the check on e5. Right? Looks like he might have something here with the rook and queen still. The white king doesn't have any squares to maneuver to. Look at this. Now, king to h4, the only square. And then you got Morphy checking. All right, now from here, same idea. He checks from f6. And now they give Max Lang plausibly suggests that what Morphy overlooked on his 41st move, which was rook check on f1, right? He didn't see this coming. Watch. Queen check. He didn't see this. He thought he'd have king up on his 43rd move. He thought he'd have king to g7, which after this, rook takes rook, queen check, only move. He thought he'd have mate right here with queen to h6. But now the black rook is not on f1, protecting the f pawn, and the king could slip out. You see that? So it says he would no longer have the rook to guard his f pawn. So now he escapes. You see that, folks? I'll tell you what. I'll show it to you. King up. Let's just throw this silly move in. All right, now you go here. He goes there. The king to g7 was going to support the queen, which would give mate, because now the black rook protects the f pawn. You see that? And through it all, when he was doing this over the board, who knows? Max Lang thinks maybe that's why Morphy missed it. He missed this, right? So what happened was, at this stage, after king takes knight, he threw the queen to e5 check, king up, and now he realizes it. Now he realizes his king to g7 doesn't work. Rook takes rook, and now the king weasels his way out. He worms out, right? Squirms out, whatever the term is, right? You win this back, but you know, he's up a piece. Let's see, it's 4 pawns to 5 and the bishop. Forget it, right? So Morphy's not lost though, folks. He's not lost. He doesn't play king to g7. Okay? He checks here, like Shredder shows. He goes back. Morphy checks again, only square, he goes back. Morphy checks again, only square, he goes back. And guess what, folks? That's it. It's perpetual check, right? Game is drawn. The game is a draw. See the evaluation? So Morphy, although he missed the win, he didn't lose. He said, oh, I'm not going to have it. I made a mistake. Well, a draw is better than a loss, right, folks? I mean, I know sometimes it feels like it's still a loss because you had to win, right? but hey, when it comes to the actual record, he takes the draw. Now, on this, if he was dumb enough to come up just to show it, you got, oh, see, you don't have the rook. You don't have the rook there because of this, but you got, let's see, you got the king up, right? He takes here, king up. Yeah, he gets out. He gets out of it. He gets out of it. Gets out. Because this would be mate, but he's got, see, that's finally the e4 pawn push, folks. Look at that. And it saves white's neck. Look at this. Because he could take there. See that? That would be mate. That would be mate like this. But if not for the white queen, isn't that something? All right. So anyway, Morphy, you know, we had fun with this one. I got to admit. But Morphy hung in there. I mean, he kept the draw in his back pocket, you know. And there it is. Drawn by perpetual check. And just, it says here, time not recorded. Who knows how long it took. What a battle, though. It was a good one. You know, it's amazing the sidelines, wasn't it? A lot of pretty things going on, which is the case with many of Morphy's games. Not just the actual moves are beautiful, but the sidelines are just as pretty, right? All right. I had fun on that one. I hope you did too. And we'll see you next time on Morphy's Games of Chess.